Welcome to Giraffe Utopia on TalkShoe and Restream. I'm Chris Ransom. Joseph Potter's over on TalkShoe, guys. But today we're going to be breaking down the offensive tackle rankings for the NFL draft. I've got 20 on my list. Wes did send me an article with the top offensive line awards in college football, but because it combines tackles, guards, and centers, I'm going to wait until we get through the guard and center rankings to update that on the site. So, yeah. And you can see I put the tackle rankings in our game recaps web pages. So, since it's week 8, this is when I do the tackles each year. But only reason I'm mentioning that is because Darrisaw did tear his ACL and his MCL after the Vikings paid him, but he got his money. I don't know what the recovery process is going to be like, but I think that injury really hurts the Vikings. Darrisaw not having him the rest of the year, that is a massive blow for the Vikings. I still think they can win their. I still think they could go 9-8 this year, but I think the only winnable games left on their schedule are versus the Colts on Sunday night, versus the Bears on Monday night, and at the Titans. I mean, without Darrisaw, those are the only 3 games left on the Vikings schedule I can see them winning. And I think the best case scenario for the Vikings right now is they get the 7 seed and they lose in the wild card round. I mean, right now I've got the Vikings at 7 on my simulator. Not the top 7 at all for most of the year. They are at number 7 on my simulator at the moment, edging out San Francisco and Chicago. I think one of those two could sneak in. I do have Tampa at 8 and 9. I have Washington at 8 and 9. So I have Washington at 7 and 10 actually, but they're already at 5 wins. Their outlook will change though if Mariota can beat Caleb Williams. It's going to be interesting. We'll get to predictions later because I think this is the first time in a while where both Mariota and Winston from that 2015 draft are starting. So that's very interesting, obviously. But yeah. Now, with that being said, we will start the offensive tackle rankings. I know we went on some rants, some tangents, but offensive tackle rankings are about to get underway. I've got 20 on my list. I only have 3 first-round tackles. I had 2, but a third guy played well enough to move into the late part of the first round. But obviously, the number 1 guy on my list is Will Campbell, LSU. Still the number 1 player on my board. And one thing I have heard from Dane Brugler about this offensive tackle class, NFL teams are not high on this tackle class. They dislike this tackle class as a whole about as much as I do. And the top 2 guys on most scouts' boards are Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks. But both and multiple NFL scouts are telling Brugler both Campbell and Banks have guard arms. So you know, that's going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on leading up to this draft, leading up to the combine, because Early speculation right now is that both Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks, the top two tackles in this draft, do have guard arms. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on leading up to this draft. Yeah, and this is the thing. Both Campbell and Banks have not allowed a sack this year. And they both dominated in their +1 draft years. So I'm a lot less concerned about the arm length than the NFL scouts are. You're getting the arm length and the hand size mixed up. I mean, Skaronski moved to guard because he had 31 and 7/8 inch arms. I don't think even if Will Campbell's arms are short, I think they're going to be 32 at the bare minimum. I don't think they're going to be 31 and 7/8 like Skaronski. As long as they're 32, I'm cool with leaving them at tackle. If they're under 32, then we can revisit this issue after the combine. But right now, I'm not putting any stock into it. I think a lot of scouts are overreacting with this rumor. A lot of people are over. Yeah. 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 Because when I was watching the tackles this summer, the two guys that had the pass blocking footwork, run blocking footwork, pass blocking strength, run blocking strength were Will Campbell and Texas left tackle Kelvin Banks, who we'll get to in a few minutes. So those two have been firmly locked in as my top two guys. That's not changed. So yeah, same here. Actually, Will Campbell is the third highest favorite to go one, and Banks is seventh, but they're both in the top seven. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I still have Kelvin Banks in my top 10, but Will Campbell is my number 1 player. Yeah. His yeah, his PFF grade is actually 3 points higher than Banks's this season, but I still like Campbell better on tape. But that's just something worth pointing out. Here we go. This is from October 16th. Will Campbell versus Kelvin Banks. Will Campbell, 274 pass block snaps, 0 sacks allowed, 3 pressures allowed, 84.8 pass block grade according to PFF. Kelvin Banks, 202 pass blocking snaps, 0 snacks allowed, 1 pressure allowed, 89.9 pass blocking grade. So PFF is saying Kelvin Banks is 5 points better. I thought it was 3 points. They're saying Kelvin Banks is 5 points better than Campbell in pass blocking. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but that's what their analytics say. So I for that reason, my point is both guys belong in the top 10 because when I watched the tape of every tackle in this draft in the summer, Banks and Campbell were the only two that stood out. Campbell and Banks, those were the only two that stood out in pass blocking footwork. Pass blocking footwork is going to be a big issue for a lot of the tackles in this draft. I ended up moving Josh Connerly into the late first round, but that's largely due to Oregon dominating Ohio State's defensive ends. I have first round grades on both two. I have a first round grade on Tui Maloau. There's people that have a first round grade on Jack Sawyer. I'm not in that camp yet, but Connerly did play amazing against Ohio State a few weeks ago in the 32-31 win. So I am rewatching some of the game film. I found a full game of Ohio State, Oregon, and I am rewatching Connerly as we're doing the breakdown. Yeah. The Guardians Yankees, they got eliminated by the Yankees. That was game 5 of the ALCS. They got eliminated by the Yankees that day. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't even uploaded this film to Rumble. I found the full game of Ohio State, Oregon, but I haven't uploaded it to Rumble. And when I watched Connerly this summer, pass blocking footwork and pass blocking strength wasn't quite there. Pass blocking strength looks better this year, but I've only watched 2 snaps. I mean, and Oregon did beat Ohio State 32-31. Neither Ohio State edge rusher sacked Dylan Gabriel. That's encouraging. Encouraging enough to where I guess you could put Connerly in the late first round. Because the reality is at least 4 or 5 teams in the market for an offensive tackle this draft cycle. But there's only 2 first round tackles in Campbell and Banks. And Connerly might be the third guy. Yeah. Like the run blocking strength and pass blocking strength from a year ago looks a lot better on Josh Connerly's end. Now it just comes down to the footwork. Footwork still needs to be more consistent. I mean, he did give up a pressure there due to the fact that his feet were kind of slow, but I mean, Oregon did win this game, and he really didn't give up a sack in the game. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think I have Connerly. Where do I have Connerly on my board? I have Josh Connerly at 31 on my board, which is a late first, early second, 31. So you can tell I have Campbell at 1, Kelvin Banks at 10, and I have Connerly at 31. And there's a pretty big gap between Banks and Connerly. And there's a bigger gap between Connerly and the next guy on the list, which is Emory Jones Jr. I mean, Emory Jones, I actually did like his tape in the summer. I don't think it's first round tape, but I actually did like his tape. Um, and I have Emory Jones at 49 on my big board. I have the same potential grade for Connerly as I do Jones, 90, but I think Connerly's a little bit more refined in his game at the moment. So I have Emory Jones at 49 on my board. And the other offensive tackle that I have is Ariante Ursary, Minnesota. He is at 52 on my board. I have a second on Ursary. I have a second on Emory Jones. Um, and then I have a second on Iowa State left tackle Jalen Travis, who I watched a lot of at Princeton last year. He is really, really good. I do not know why draft simulators have him available on day 3. I think he's a second round talent, but those are the 6 tackles I have first and second round grades on. And I have Connerly in the late first. And then I've got 3 tackles, Emory Jones, Ursary, and Jalen Travis in the second round, Joey. So just looking at the top 6, what do you think of that top 6? And I heard you had 4 tackles in the first round a few weeks ago. So in my top 5 you think could go in the first round, and then Jalen probably goes in round 2, maybe he falls. Connerly, Emery Jones, and Ursary, you think those guys could sneak into round 1 depending on, positional need? Not necessarily because you have them in your top 32, but need at the tackle position, you think there's a chance they get overdrafted? Yeah, because JT Tuimoloau got a quarterback pressure on both Olu Fashanu and Ronnie Stanley, the top 2 tackles in last year's draft cycle, and his plus wasn't draft year. Connerly neutralizes him completely. So, they've got right tackle who's the captain. So they've got a really good right tackle and Brian O'Neill who's the captain. Darisaw was not voted a captain, and Brian O'Neill was. So I think they're going to keep both of those guys. The Vikings have 2 really good tackles, but they don't have a swing tackle if, Brian O'Neill or Darisaw gets injured. And that they were able to coast by the last 2 years with that problem, even when Brian O'Neill injured. Darisaw missed a game last year, but this year, Darisaw, despite Brian O'Neill staying healthy, and now they don't have a third tackle that can play tackle. So you can see why that's problematic. And I do have I have Ursary at 5, Jalen Travis, Iowa at 6. Let's get to number 7 on my list. I only have number 7 on my list is Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia, the West Virginia left tackle. I have him in the 3rd round. I have him at 86 on my board. I mean, Wyatt Milam, not only is his pass blocking footwork not great, his hand placement needs some work as well. I mean, he's a notch below these top 6 tackles in the draft. Does he have starter potential if he reaches his ceiling? Yes, but he may not reach his ceiling until year 4. I mean, 4th final year of his rookie deal. That might be the earliest he reaches his ceiling. And even if he doesn't reach his ceiling, you're getting a serviceable starter, high end backup, low end starter. You're still getting a serviceable player. With Wyatt Milam, I have him at 86 on my board, and I have Arizona right tackle Jonas Savulena. This is Bill Sparks' number 2 tackle in the draft. Jonas Savulena. Jonas Savania out of Arizona, I have him at 95 on my board. So Those are my 2 third round guys. Yeah, you've got the top 6, the 5 guys I mentioned, Jalen Travis, then there's a drop off with Wyatt Milam and Savannah, and these are guys I don't think these guys yeah, they do have 90 potential grades. They could be borderline Pro Bowlers if they reach their ceiling, but I would say there's a 25 to 50% chance they reach their ceiling, and even if they do reach their ceiling, you're looking at year 3, year 4 at the earliest. Do you have that type of patience to wait it out that long with their development? Because the NFL is a results oriented league now. It is. You can. So Savannah, I do have the same. I Yeah, I think Savannah will probably max out as an 87. I know he has a 90 on NCAA EA College Football 25. That doesn't matter. I think he'll probably max out at an 86 or an 87 in his development. My player comp for Savannah was Dewan Jones. What a coincidence! And you bring up Dewan Jones. So what a coincidence. Yeah, 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 yep, yep. And I've got 3 fourth round left tackles. I think these are the last players in the draft with starter potential. I've got Josh Simmons out of Ohio State as my OT9. I have OT10 is Ernest Green the fourth out of Georgia, and OT11 is Anthony Belton out of North Carolina State. So those guys ended up with fourth round grades. Yeah, Josh Simmons, Ohio State left tackle, who suffered a season-ending injury. If he didn't suffer that injury, he might be in that day 2 conversation, but because of the injury, because of the medicals, he ends up dropping all the way to 122 on my board, and he's the first fourth round tackle I have at OT9. I mean, Simmons never really impressed either one of us at left tackle. Simmons never really impressed either of us at left tackle. Let's but yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and these guys are all swing tackles in my opinion. They're all very raw. They could develop into borderline starters, but my potential grade for DeJuan Jones was an 87. I think I have an 86 on Simmons, but he's very raw. He needs 4 to 5 years of development, and I'm not sure teams are gonna have that type of time and patience to get the most out of him and mold him. And you could say the same with Ernest Green out of Georgia and Anthony Belton out of North Carolina. North Carolina State. Yep. What Yeah, because I know a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of well-respected people on Twitter, whether it be Jordan Reed of ESPN, Dame Parson, whether it's Mel Kiper, a lot of people have tried to pigeonhole Josh Simmons into the first round. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't see it. I mean, after Simmons, Ernest, yeah. What do you think of Ernest Green and Anthony, the left tackle, and Anthony Belton, North Carolina State left tackle? What do you have to think about those guys? Yeah, 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 yep. And I am gonna reload the. Yeah, I forgot to put Xavier Trust, the Georgia right tackle, in my offensive tackle rankings. I did make a quick tweak to the a quick on the fly tweak to my offensive tackle rankings. So, but yeah, Anthony Belton, he took over for Ikem Ekwonu as a freshman redshirt. I believe he's a junior redshirt now. He might be a senior redshirt, but he's had multiple years to learn that system and start at left tackle. He's a 3-year starter at left tackle for North Carolina State. So I think Anthony Belton is a good addition in the fourth round after Ernest Green. But we have a bunch of fifth round tackles. Yeah. And for anybody wondering about his medicals, he played every snap in 22, 23, 24. But he did not play the entire 2020 season at Georgia Military College. I think that was the COVID year, but I heard he got injured during that year. So the medicals aren't from his time at North Carolina State. They're more so from his time in high school and his time at Georgia Military, where he played for a few years before going to NC State in the portal. So it's really hard. It's going to be hard to find the information on the medicals for him. So I'm not criticizing Joey. I'm saying that information is going to be harder to find. Yep. Yeah, and Belton's the last guy I have with a potential starter grade, but the medicals are concerning, but Belton's the last guy that has starter potential left in this draft, and then you get to, like, swing tackles in rounds 5 through 7. I've got 4 or 5 off it. Yeah, offensive tackles 12 through 16 are 5th rounders on my board. I'm going to start with my number one swing tackle in round 5. It's Fernando Carmona. He is the left tackle on Arkansas. Came to them from San Jose State in the portal. He is my number one 5th round guy. He's listed as a 4th round in some of the simulators. I have Carmona in the 5th round. Marcus Mabo, the right tackle on Purdue, is my OT 14. Johnny Cornelius, the Oregon Ducks right tackle, is OT 15 for me. Jack Nelson, the Wisconsin Badgers left tackle, is my OT 16. But those 5 guys, 5th rounders for me, and probably looking at swing tackle roles. And he went from San Jose State to Arkansas. Yeah. Yeah. And then round 6, I have 2 more swing tackles, Xavier Truss, the Georgia right tackle, and Austin Barber, the Florida Gators left tackle. Those are the 2 guys I have 6th round grades on. You know what's hilarious? Back in the summer, there were people that had 1st round grades on Truss. Looking at it, I don't know why, but everybody was hoping somebody else would step up outside of Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks. So people just kept plugging guys into the 1st round because they liked their highlight reel or their tape or whatever. I don't know why he was ever in consideration for the 1st round, but it is what it is. This is what people on Twitter do with draft profiles. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And after Truss and Austin Barber, I've got two Texas A&M tackles in the seventh round. Trey's in the third, their left tackle, and Ruben Fathery, the right tackle. I have both of them in the seventh round, and those two round out the offensive tackles. So that's the group this year. Texas A&M hasn't had a decent left tackle since Jake Matthews was Johnny Manziel's blindside, and before that, he was the right tackle next to Luke Jokel. I probably shouldn't have mentioned Luke Jokel. His career was very bad in the NFL for NFL historians. Yeah, that's fair to say. But out Texas A&M hasn't had a good tackle since those two. And I think the Bengals drafted a tackle out of Texas A&M in the first round. I think it was Jermaine Ifedi in 2015. People were hoping he'd continue that Jokel Matthews lineage of tackles. And I don't think that A&M's had a tackle draft in the first round since Ifedi. I mean, has Texas A&M had a good tackle since their trifecta of Jokel, Matthews, and Ifedi as first round picks? The answer is no. Short, blunt answer is no. I do think Eric McCoy's had a very good career at center, but that's not a surprise. I had a first round grade on McCoy in the 2019 NFL draft. He got picked the second round that year. He's been the Saints center ever since. So I'm not surprised by that. But, I do think Bryce Foster may have a chance to be an NFL starter, but you're probably looking at backups with Zun and Fathery. Um, so yeah, that's basically what you're looking at. Yeah. 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 Yep. Agreed. Yeah. So coming up here, we just covered the offensive tackle rankings. Coming up next, I am going to put I'll go through the first 14 picks of the MLS draft. I'm not going to go through the entire first round because one, it's not most, Joey will admit it's not as exciting as the NFL draft. And we only have the draft order for the first 14 picks. I'll go through the first round as we get closer to the draft in December, but right now, I'm probably just going to go through the first 14 picks. But before I do that, we'll talk about the World Series and the WNBA Finals. I did not watch the World Series last night. I was at the Virgin Players for the MLS draft, and I watched the Boise State UNLV game after as I was dealing with my cold. So I basically just watched that game, and Boise State won that game. Ashton Jeanty 133 yards against UNLV. But I got a text from my mom. She was very happy. She's a Red Sox fan. She does not like the Yankees. So I knew when she was happy, I knew the Dodgers won. I didn't know how the Dodgers won. And then I found out Eric Hosmer hit a grand slam not Eric Hosmer. I'm getting Eric Hosmer, former Royal, mixed up with Freddie Freeman, former Brave. How? It's probably because the Royals and Dodgers both wear blue. That's probably, but Freddie Freeman, the former Braves first baseman, no, I know I don't know if he was a first baseman or not, but Freddie Freeman, um, hit the game-winning grand slam for the Dodgers on the Braves 2021 World Series team. But he hit a grand slam and extra innings in the 10th inning, and that's how the Dodgers won game one. If any World Series has a chance to match Indians Cubs from 2016 in terms of ratings, it's probably this series. I am trying everything in my power to not watch this series until there's a game decided. I can live with one World Series with the Yankees or Dodgers if I have a team to root against, but if both teams are playing each other, it almost makes the event unwatchable as a fan. But as a critic, I know I have to watch the series and objectively talk about it. Eh, I mean, Garrett Cole is, literally the only decent starter the Yankees have right now. Garrett Cole's been the only decent starter in the playoffs for the Yankees this year. He's not the Garrett Cole of a few years ago when he took the Pirates to the playoffs and he took the Astros to the World Series. He's not as good as that Garrett Cole 5 years ago, but he's still their best pitcher right now. I mean, and this game was scoreless through 5 innings, and then the Dodgers got the first run. Giancarlo Stanton hit a 2-run home run. Dodgers ended up tying the game. The Yankees took a 3-2 lead in the 10th inning, and then Hosmer had the grand slam in the bottom of the 10th. So that's how the Dodgers won game one. I think the Yankees are going to win game two tonight and even it up 1-1 heading back to New York on Monday. Cole outperformed Flaherty. But here's the thing. It's Clay Holmes has been good, Connell has been good, Weaver's been good, but Cousins and Cortez have been awful for the Yankees in the bullpen. Uh, Jake Cousins has an ERA of 12. That's Kirk Cousins' cousin, by the way. Kirk Cousins' cousin gave up Kirk Cousins' cousin gave up the Kirk Cousins' cousin gave up the run. Yeah, and Nestor Cortez has an ERA of 54. Nestor Cortez also has an ERA of 54. He got a blown save with the Yankees ahead 6-2 in the bottom of the 10th. So Nick Cousins got the loss to Nestor Cortez, but Cousins at ERA of 12 and Cortez has an ERA of 54. I'm guessing those are their worst bullpen guys, and they're just using them because everyone else was tired. So well, the Dodgers beat the Yankees despite not using their best pitcher. Yamamoto is the Dodgers' best pitcher, and he's pitching tonight against Carlos Rodon. So there is an opportunity for the Dodgers to go up 2-0 because they're pitching their best pitcher tonight. They didn't pitch their best pitcher last night. They're pitching their best pitcher tonight. So strategically, that worked out great for the Dodgers because now, and Betts had the Mookie Betts in the sacrifice play. Clark Schmidt is going to pitch for the Yankees on Monday. I think Schmidt will deliver, but we don't know who's pitching on Tuesday or Wednesday yet. I think Clark Schmidt will win Game 3 for the Yankees. Um, I'm going to say that I'm going to say Yankees in 6, but this could get very ugly. If the Dodgers handle business on Saturday, this could get very ugly for the Yankees. I mean, I would say the Dodgers probably slightly. They won it in 5 games, but the Guardians were more competitive. The Mets were not competitive. The Mets every game in the Mets-Dodgers NLCS was a blowout. So, runs win games. Hits do not win games. Runs win games. But yeah, the Dodgers are not going to leave those runners on base. They're going to capitalize, and we'll see. But it does feel like a must-win game too for the Yankees because Yamamoto's the Dodgers' best pitcher, and if the Dodgers win this, they go up 2-0. And even if the Yankees win the 3 home games, they got to go back to LA for Game 6 and 7. So even if the Yankees win every game at Yankee Stadium, they got to go back to LA for Game 6 and 7. Yeah, every Yankee fan is gonna say, "We beat the Guardians in 5 games. That wasn't a fight." Well, you did beat us in 5 games, but you barely beat us in 3 of those 4 wins. Out Outside of game 1, every game could have gone either way. Outside of game 1, which was a Yankees blowout at home, every other game could have honestly gone either way. Let's take a look at the Dodgers, pitching. Yeah, Flaherty, the starting pitcher for the Dodgers, at a 6.10 ERA. Not good. 5 and a third innings for Jack Flaherty. But the bullpen for the Dodgers was phenomenal. 1.42 for Banda. Two Dodger bullpen pitchers with an ERA of 0. And Kopech, 1.50. 1.93. So every bullpen pitcher on the Dodgers had an ERA of under 2. Okay. He pitched 5 scoreless innings before Stanton had the 2-run home run to give the Yankees the lead. So, I mean, uh, look, he did bad against. I think the reason his ERA is above 6 is because I think he was the starting pitcher in the game where the Padres scored 8 runs on the Dodgers in the NLDS. And I think he started game 2 of the NLCS where the Mets scored like 9 runs in the Dodgers. I think those are the only playoff games he started this year. That's why his ERA is so high. He actually did respectably well in the World Series despite his ERA at 6.110. 5 scoreless innings against the Yankees, you'll take that. Because he's not even your best pitcher, and you threw him in game 1. They threw high to Soto. High strike zone to Soto. Yep. I think the Dodgers have a better I think the Dodgers have a better starting nine than the Guardians as far as the batting lineup. I'll read the Dodgers batting lineup. First up, Shohei Ohtani, designated hitter. Second, Mookie Betts. Third, Freddie Freeman. That 1, 2, 3 is a motherfucker to deal with. And then you got Teo Oscar Hernandez, the left fielder, batting fourth. Max Muncy, the third baseman, batting fifth. You have Enrique Hernandez, third baseman, batting sixth. Enrique Hernandez is a center fielder, not third baseman. Enrique Hernandez, he's bat sixth. WD Smith at 7 is the weak link, and then you have Gavin Lux at 8, and you have Tommy Edman at 9. Edman's been real huge for the Dodgers, even though he bats ninth in the lineup. He's been huge for the Dodgers in these playoffs. So that is a tough lineup to go through. And Smith's probably the only guy on the Dodgers they need to upgrade in the offseason. The rest of the team is really good. Edman's batting 354. He's made the Guardians and Yankees ninth hitters look like amateurs, but that's the thing. Ninth hitter having that's huge because you go back to your lineup, it's becoming more and more important in baseball. Mets ninth batter is Francisco Alvarez. He's only 22, but he batted 256 as a rookie. Francisco Alvarez, that's the Mets number 9 batter, just to put things into perspective. Not that that matters, but it sort of reinforces the argument on why that number 9 batter is so important. I am looking at the number 9 hitter for the worst teams in the MLB. Pirates number 9 hitter only batted 200. The Marlins number 9 hitter only batted 227. So, yeah, that's why those teams were at the bottom of the standings. Romo, the Rockies' number 9 batter, batted 176 in the season finale against the Dodgers. 176. That's the number 9 batter on the Rockies, the worst team in the league. The White Sox batter, 1 for 5, 176 batting average against the Tigers. You see, I know the White Sox, they lost 121 games. They really suck, but they're not going to pick until 10th in this year's MLB draft. And they get to pick 10th in the draft. And they get to pick 10th in the draft because of the lottery rules. Because they're a big market team, because of the lottery rules, they get to pick 10th in the draft. They don't even get a top 6 pick because of the revenue sharing. They've got Garrett Crochet, their 2020 first round pick that they drafted, and they've got Andrew Vaughn, their 2019 first round pick that they drafted, third overall, who's their best hitter at first baseman. The rest of their team sucks. That's it. That's their team. Those two players are their team. Um, Second baseman, Lenyon, the second baseman, the guy Joey was thinking of was Lenyon Sosa. He plays second base and third base. He bats fifth in the lineup behind Vaughn. Lenyon Sosa. Yeah, and before yeah, and for those wondering why I don't have an MLB mock-up yet, MLB lottery isn't until December 5th at the off-season meetings in Dallas, Texas. That's when they're going to have the lottery. And the White Sox, because they made too much money, they're not going to be eligible for it. The Athletics, they finished in the top 6 each the last 2 years, so they don't get to pick until 11. That's the MLB's thought process for them not being eligible for the number 1 pick in this year's MLB draft. That's their thought process. That's the league's the MLB saying the White Sox finished in the top 10 for revenue sharing. Maybe for TV deals, but as far as attendance goes, no. Yeah. No. Yeah. The White Sox finished third in TV revenue. Apparently, I just revenue. The Dodgers and Orioles were 1 and 2. The White Sox were third, ahead of the Yankees. So the White Sox finished ahead of the Yankees in TV revenue this year. That's why they're not picking until 10 in the MLB draft. How? Yeah. To be fair to the White Sox, I think it's a blessing in disguise because you look at 2025 MLB draft, the number one player is Ethan Holiday, Jackson Holiday's younger brother. He's a high school batter. That's number one player in next year's draft. Whereas there were a lot of good freshmen in college baseball this year. So I think the White Sox actually benefit from that because they'll get a really good college player in 26. They'll be eligible for a lottery pick in 26, and 26 I think is a better draft than 25. I'll read through some of the freshman All-Americans in college baseball this year. Luke Stevenson, catcher, North Carolina, 284, 14 home runs as a freshman, helped North Carolina win the ACC. Henry Ford, first baseman, Virginia, 336 batting average, 17 home runs, broke Mark Reynolds' record for most home runs in Virginia history. He's in the 26 MLB draft. Stephen Malam, second baseman, LSU, 326 batting average, 8 home runs. Gavin Grahona, go ahead. Burris is probably going to be. I mean, Drew Burris, he had a 381 batting average and 25 home runs as a freshman at Georgia Tech. If he improves on that next year, he's going to be the number one pick in 26. I could go through all the good names on this list, but let's be real. Justin LeBron, 344, 12 home runs is Alabama's shortstop. Gavin Grahovac, 298, 23 home runs for Texas A&M. Missouri State had a 20 home run outfielder who broke Ryan Howard's record for home runs at Missouri State. I mean, 26 looks like a better MLB draft than 25 for college players. I think you just continue to throw out a shitty product for next year and try to get the top pick in 26. Because I think Drew Sanders will be ready for the MLB by 26. The pitcher you took out of Arkansas with the first round pick. I think he'll be ready to be the number 2 pitcher by 2026 if you keep Crochet around. And I think 26 is a better draft than 25. You're not going to hear that from the Jim Callises, the Jonathan Mayos who get paid by MLB Network to scout the upcoming draft classes. They're not going to give you a take like that. I am giving you a take like that because I'm reading about all these freshmen on Baseball America that had 20 home runs, 298 batting averages, 323 batting averages as freshmen. North Carolina's Jason DeCaro, number 1 starter for North Carolina as a freshman, 6-1, 3.81 ERA. That's probably the top pitcher in 26. Evansville looks like they have a first-round pitcher, and Clemson probably does too. Kansas Jayhawks have a first-round pitcher. So I I think the catcher out of Coastal Carolina is going to be available when they pick at 10. Um, I'm not sure what position they would take though. We'll get to we'll get to the WNBA Finals next, but like I think they're going to get Drew Burris to replace Luis Roberts Jr. in 26. But I'm trying to find a site that has my MLB draft. That's the site I want. MyMLBdraft.com. I know they haven't updated the order since the start of the playoffs, but I'm just curious, who does my MLB draft have the White Sox taking here? Tankathon? Stop fucking with me. This computer's yes, I'm here, Joey. But my oh. I know it's a little too early. I want my computer to stop freaking freezing. Stop freaking I know I have too many apps open. I will close some of them. I can't close all of them though. All right, we'll close this ESPN. All right, so we'll close this. We'll close all right, so we got this down to a respectable amount. I've closed like 3 or 4 apps. I think that will help. My MLB draft. Let's here we go cuz I was on my MLB draft the other day. They have the White Sox drafting Eli Willits, a shortstop from Fort Cobb, Broxton in Oklahoma at 10. And the White Sox drafted a high school shortstop back in 2021. He's not in the mix, but he's in AAA. He'll probably get called up. So I disagree with that pick. Strongly disagree with that pick. Let's see who the White Sox passed on. Caden Bodine's a player I would consider at 10. He's the Coastal Carolina 6'4", 230 South Carolina Gamecocks right fielder. He's going to the Twins at 14 in this mock. And he had 21 home runs as a sophomore. So it would be your pick. Cam Leiter, the Florida State's got 2 pitchers in next year's draft. Jamie Arnold, their number 1 starter, and Cam Leiter, the number 2 starter on Florida State's projected to fall to the Guardians. Cam Leiter, look that name up. He has a really good sidearm pitch. He used to play for Central Florida. He transferred to Florida State. He only pitched 35 innings this year. Yeah, he pitched 35 innings this year, but he had 56 strikeouts. He was 6-1 as a relief. Yeah, he was 6-1 as a pitcher. He had 4 innings pitched in each game. He did not have a single game of 7 innings pitched. Pen guy, Joey. He might be a bullpen guy in the MLB because he's had he had a few games where he had 12 strikeouts, but he's never, he didn't have any 7, 8 inning games on his resume at Florida State. So you might be looking at a bullpen guy. We got to talk about the WNBA Finals, and then we'll get to the MLS mock. I promise you. I promise you. Talk shoot. Don't try. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Shoot! Talk shoot! Talk shoot! You're pissing me off. I do not care. Phone now. There we go. There we go. Thank you, Talk Shoe. I was getting fired up off the air, but my mic was muted. But yeah. So we still have the WNBA Finals and first 14 picks of the MLS mock. Then I will give you my playoff picks for the MLS, and then we'll give you our NFL this week. So let's talk about that WNBA Finals because the Lynx looked like they were going to win Game 5. They had a pretty big lead on Sunday, and then Brianna Stewart hits a game-tying shot, and the game goes to overtime, and the Liberty win in overtime. Heck of a series, though. There might be a WNBA lockout because they're trying to renegotiate the player salaries for the league, even though the league hasn't made. So we'll see what happens there. Um, WNBA is trending in the right direction, but I would wait until the league is going to be at 16 teams and there's a little bit more stability in terms of revenue before I renegotiated salaries. But I'm not opposed to renegotiating salaries, but I'm not there yet. Because they're at 12 teams now. They're going to go to 13 next year. They're going to go to 15 in 2026. Once they get to 16, we can renegotiate salaries. We're not there yet. Um, I'm going to bring my water in here and then I'll load up the MLS Mock Draft. But yeah, the Liberty won the WNBA Finals. They have two free agents, Courtney Vandersloot at point guard and Brianna Stewart at center. She took less money and came back because she wanted to bring a championship to New York, but now she's a free agent. Yeah. I'm Googling WNBA shooting percentage leaders. Shooting percentage leaders for the WNBA. Yeah, it's not even loading the shooting percentages. It's just giving me points per game and all this other crap. Okay, here we go. The shooting percentage leaders for the WNBA. At 64.5, John Kell Jones. I believe she was the MVP of the WNBA Finals at power forward. She had a 64.5 shooting percentage on the year. That is best in the WNBA. The WNBA Finals MVP, John Kell Jones. That was the best shooting percentage in the WNBA. Number 2 behind her was Brittany Griner, 62.5. Uh, John Kell Jones was the WNBA Finals MVP. So the WNBA Finals MVP this year and Brittany Griner are the top 2 players in shooting percentage for the WNBA this season. John Kell Jones had it's not saying 14.2 points per game for John Kell Jones. Brittany Griner had 17.8. Yeah. Sophie Cunningham, 61.8. She's 8th. Leonie Fibich, 62.4. Dolson, Gustafson. Those are some of the other players with 60%. Aja Wilson, 59.1. She was the MVP of the WNBA. Kelsey Mitchell of the Indiana Fever led the Fever in shooting percentage, 55.8 points per game. And I would argue Kelsey Mitchell is the biggest star on the Fever, and the Fever had two number one picks, Elijah Boston and Caitlin Clark, but Kelsey Mitchell, number two pick in the 2018 WNBA draft out of Ohio State, I would argue that's their biggest star. I mean, she's very good player. Caitlin Clark has a 58.3 shooting percentage, but she's 41% from three, Joey. So Caitlin Clark is actually 21st in the league in shooting percentage at 58.3. But she was look, I agree it has to go up. If you want to promote her as the face of the league, her shooting percentage has to go up from 58% to 60%. And three-point shooting percentage, 41% from three is phenomenal for a rookie. 41% from 3 point, but you want to see that go up to like 43, 44. Yep. 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 Well said, Joey. And the Liberty did a good job retaining John Kell Jones. They retained Sabrina Ionescu. Those two are in contract years along with Brianna Stewart, but they managed to retain both of those players. So I'll give the Liberty credit, but if they cannot retain Brianna Stewart and Courtney Vandersloot at point guard, they are probably heading for. I would say they probably don't repeat next year. I can't say they're heading for a rebuild because as long as they keep their three-star players at power forward, shooting guard, and center, they're going to be one of the best teams in the WNBA. And their small forwards under contract for next year. So literally, even if they lose Vandersloot and they bring back Stewart, they're probably still going to be in the conference finals again. But depending on who they bring in at point guard, depends. That's going to go a long way in whether the Liberty repeat or not. Um, I've got the MLS mock loaded. Also got some stuff right now. The Liberty have 500,000 in cap space. That should be enough to bring back Vandersloot and Stewart. They have $500,000 in cap space. Even if Stewart wants a pay raise, that's enough to bring back both of those players. But if you bring back both those players, your bench might be weaker. That's the other thing you got to take into account, Joe. Your bench might be weaker because I think there's two other free agents. And these rookie deals are 4 years in the WNBA, and then you can renegotiate your contract after that. But the rookie deals are 4 years. If Diana Taurasi comes back for a 21st season, you need to promote her. I mean, she's been in the league since she was 21. She's 40 now, and she's still playing 20 years later at a high level for a 22nd season. It's just if she does come back, she's setting a bar so high. I'm beginning to question if LeBron James is even going to reach that bar in the NBA. That's how high of a bar Taurasi set in the WNBA. She's the only WNBA player with 10,000 career points. Just put that into perspective. Yeah, the NBA and NFL are probably the two best leagues at marketing their stars. Then I would say the MLB is next. Look, the NHL is getting better at marketing their stars, but for many, many years they were horrible at it. Like, and when I say horrible, I mean WNBA horrible at marketing their stars. That was the NHL. They're getting better at marketing their best players, but at the same token, yeah. And Tyleek Williams power bombs Dylan Rayola on third down. Not to go off topic, but college football has started, and I got to get through this MLS mock draft. So make your closing argument for this WNBA. It is a very powerful argument. All right, I'm gonna get into this MLS mock now. And then we'll get into some of the football. I'll provide some updates during some of the college football games. I've got YouTube TV on my phone here. I've got Ohio State, Nebraska on my cell phone. Ole Miss just scored a touchdown on Oklahoma. Indiana just scored on Washington, and Notre Dame versus Navy is in a Duluth Jeans commercial. But those are the four games I get on YouTube TV. And I'm not going to go through every pick in my mock in depth. Remember, we only have the draft order for the first 14 selections. So, you know, and this was tough because there's like six players in the running for the number one pick right now. Um, you've got Dean Bolts, the projected winner for Big Ten Freshman of the Year. Pittsburgh defenseman Nicholas Sorensen. He's probably going to be ACC Freshman of the Year at center back. You've got Cornell sophomore forward Alex Harris. Western Michigan midfielder Owen Smith, Massachusetts forward Alec Hughes, who went undrafted last year got a fifth year of eligibility, and then Emil Jaskinen out of Akron, who dominated at Long Island. When Long Island beat Maryland a few years ago, when Ben Bender was eligible for the MLS draft in the round of 48, Emil Jaskinen scored the winning goal for Long Island. He's the son of a Premier League goalie, but he transferred to Akron now. So, I mean, I went with Harris. I think it's going to come down to Dean Bolts and Alex Harris for number one. I went with Harris, and it's very obvious why. I mean, Dean Bolts was struggling on the road. All of Dean Bolts' goals came for Wisconsin at home. He has not scored on the road yet. So, whereas Harris has been consistent, he's had 2 seasons of 12 goals and 4 assists. He was Ivy League Rookie of the Year as a freshman last year. He's already matched his 12 goals, 4 assists from last year, and it took him 1 fewer game as a sophomore. So he's shown that improvement. He can play right wing, striker, left wing. I mean, he wants to chemical engineering at Cornell is what he's majoring in. He probably had the best interview I've heard from a striker since Joey Flory and myself interviewed Theo Cullum 3 years ago. 4.0 GPA, led his team to back-to-back state titles in high school in Washington. He's the oldest sibling. He's got a younger brother. He could have gone anywhere he wanted, but he wanted to major in chemical engineering, so he chose to go to frickin' Cornell. You have to tip your hat to that guy because he could have gone to Clemson, Pittsburgh. He could have gone to any college in the country. He chooses Cornell. And I mean, he's consistent. He's scoring on. Go ahead. I mean, this guy is really good offensively. Like, yes. And not only was Harris exceptional as a player too, because as a freshman, defenses would triple team Alex Harris and he would still find a way to score goals. Okay, if you're getting triple teamed and you're still scoring, I don't care if it's foot, I don't care if it's hockey, I don't care if it's basket. If you're getting triple teamed and you're still scoring, you are a hell of a player. Period. So, probably. I mean, Florian compared his work ethic to Peyton Manning. So, I mean, yeah, that's like you there's 4